All right, guys, this is going to be our lesson for moon phases. We're going to talk about what they are, how we name them, and why we see them. Okay? So, first thing, the moon has phases it cycles through as it revolves around the Earth. So, as it orbits Earth, we see different portions of the bright part of the moon. Okay? The moon's light is a reflection from the sun off of its surface, and there are 8 distinct phases of the moon that we name. All right? So, now, the different shapes that we can see have names. So if more than half of the moon is bright, just like on these first two, we call it a gibbous-shaped moon. Now, if the less than half of the moon is bright, we call it a crescent moon. Okay? So it is a crescent shape. And the last type of moon we talk about is a quarter moon. Now, I know that that's half of the moon that's bright, but we're also only seeing half of the moon. So this bright piece right here ends up being a quarter of the entire moon. So if half of the moon is bright, we call it a quarter-shaped moon. Right? Ooh. Now, when we're talking about the difference between the two sides of the moon that's bright, we give it a name either waxing or waning. Okay? If the moon appears bright on the right-hand side, it's waxing. That's because the next phase over the next couple nights is going to be getting brighter. So more of the moon is going to be bright as it gets brighter from the right-hand side. If the moon appears bright on the left-hand side, it's what we call a waning phase. That means that the bright part is getting smaller over the next couple nights. All right? Now, we name the quarter moons just a little bit different than that. The first quarter moon is bright on the right-hand side, and the last quarter moon appears bright on the left-hand side. Okay? So, we are going to go through each moon phase and talk about what they look like to us. So, the first one we're going to talk about is a new moon phase. This one is completely dark. So, this image in the middle is going to be an actual photograph of the moon, what it looks like during that phase. And this circle up here is going to be a cartoon drawing, a cartoon version of it basically. So this is what it would look like if we were drawing a diagram in class. Okay, so these up here in the top right hand corner are drawings of what the moon would look like, and the big pictures in the middle are an actual photograph of the moon. All right, and the next thing is our waxing crescent moon. This is less than half of the moon appears bright, and that brightness is on the right-hand side of the moon. So this right here is what it would look like on your diagram if you were going to draw on it. And this big picture in the middle is what that moon phase actually looks like if you were to walk outside and look at the moon. The next moon phase is a first quarter moon. The right half of the moon appears bright. So if we were looking at a first quarter moon, this picture in the middle is what it would look like up in the night sky. And the next one is a waxing gibbous. So more than half of the moon is bright, and it's bright on the right-hand side, so we know that it's waxing. And since it's more than half that's bright, it is a gibbous-shaped moon. So remember, this picture up here in the right-hand corner is what would be on your diagram. That's what that would look like. And this big picture in the middle is what it would look like if we were looking at it in the night sky. The next one is a full moon. The entire moon is bright. Everything is going to be grand and wonderful. You're going to be able to see a little bit better at night because there's more light coming from the moon. The next one is a waning gibbous. So more than half of the moon is bright, but that brightness is on the left-hand side. So it is now a waning gibbous instead of a waxing gibbous. Okay. So again, this picture up here is what it would look like on your diagram. And this big picture in the very middle is what you would see if you were to look at the night sky. The next moon phase is the last quarter moon. The left half of the moon appears bright. So if we were to look at this in the night sky, you'd see that picture just like in the middle, this big picture right here. And this is what it would look like if you were drawing it on your diagram. The left-hand side of the moon is bright. And then we've got our waning crescent. So this is less than half of the moon appears bright, and it's on the left-hand side this time. And then we are done with our moon phases. That's all 8 of them. But if we were to go from the waning crescent to the next moon phase, we will be going back to the new moon. Okay? So now let's talk about why we see these moon phases. And I'm going to explain this a little bit better later on. I'm going to show you a 3D diagram of how the moon phases work, but I'm going to go ahead and explain it in words, and then I'll show you that diagram later. Okay? So half of the moon is always bright since the sun shines on one half unless there is an eclipse. It is our perspective from Earth that makes us see the moon's phases. Since we are on Earth and the moon revolves around Earth, we only see certain parts of the bright half each night. So the moon looks exactly the same if you were to look at it from above or from outer space. Half of the moon is always bright because half of it's always facing the sun and half of it's always facing away from the sun. So the side that's facing the sun is always going to be bright, and the side that's facing away from the sun is always going to be dark. So from Earth, that looks a little bit different to us because we don't always see the bright half of the moon. So the reason we see moon phases is because of our perspective here on Earth. All right, so now I'm going to do these diagrams in a separate video, but these are the diagrams that I'm going to be using. So just so you know where to find these, they are in this same set of notes still. Okay? All right.